The Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical energy lifelines, is tightening under Iran's grip. As the U.S.-Israeli conflict with the Islamic Republic intensifies, the flow of nearly 1/5 of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas is now under threat, and the disruption is already being felt. This month, a chilling incident at sea. A Thai-flagged cargo vessel, Mayuri Nari, struck by unknown projectiles while passing through the narrow waterway. An explosion ripped through the stern, fire engulfed the engine room, and chaos followed. 3 sailors are still missing. According to crew accounts, they were inside the engine room, the very point where the blast ignited. Moments later, the vessel lost control and ran aground near Keshm Island.
The war in the Middle East is heading towards its 5th week. During that time, it has led to significant cracks in the global energy sector. The effective shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz and damage to key oil facilities has wreaked havoc with supply chains.
A new warning from Donald Trump to Iran, the US president extending his deadline to open the Strait of Hormuz, but not his patience. A stark ultimatum for Tehran: make peace or, quote, it won't be pretty.
The US president has been presenting 2 very different takes on his efforts to strike a deal with Iran. He spat the dummy earlier on Truth Social, saying that Iran better get serious about this deal or it won't be pretty. Then, during a very lengthy cabinet meeting, he told journalists he's not that desperate to end this war, that there are still targets he wants to hit and that Iran is on its knees. He did reveal that big present from Iran a few days ago was 10 ships full of oil allowed through the Strait of Hormuz. Incredibly, despite this sky-high oil price we're seeing, Donald Trump says the war impact hasn't been as bad as he'd expected. Still angry, though, at the lack of help by other countries in the Hormuz Strait, including Australia.
In particular, that country, we were the longest bond, the longest ally. Australia, too. Australia was not great. I was a little surprised by Australia. I wouldn't say anybody was great other than the 5 countries in the Middle East.
On the battlefront, Israel says it's killed the Revolutionary Guard's Navy commander who had been orchestrating the current chokehold on that crucial shipping lane. Meanwhile, 2 people were killed in Abu Dhabi from falling shrapnel after a missile was intercepted. The Gulf nations still coming under attack, and the air raid sirens here in Tel Aviv and right across Israel has been non-stop today. 1 person has been killed in the attacks.
And the important shipping route of Hormuz has contradictory messages from the parties involved in the Iran war. The Strait of Hormuz is no longer closed. It is no longer open. That is the confusing narrative doing the rounds during the war. And based on the AIS confirmed transits and managed corridor movements, in our next report, we are getting you more about the number of ships passing through the strait since the war started in Iran.
Right now, one of the most important oil routes in the world, the Strait of Hormuz, is under pressure. Tensions between the United States and Iran are pushing oil prices higher, and the global economy is starting to feel it. Gas prices are rising, markets are reacting, and supply chains are tightening. But while much of the world is dealing with uncertainty, something unexpected is happening in Africa. Oil-producing countries across Africa are stepping into the spotlight, gaining attention, influence, and opportunity. So the real question is this crisis reshaping global energy power and putting Africa in a stronger position? Something is unfolding in the global energy market, and its effects are being felt across continents. At the center of this situation is the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical oil transit routes in the world. A significant portion of global oil supply passes through this narrow passage every day. Any disruption there has immediate consequences for prices, supply chains, and economic stability. Recent tensions involving the United States and Iran have brought renewed attention to this choke point. The situation has increased uncertainty in oil markets. Prices have responded accordingly. When traders anticipate potential disruptions, they adjust their expectations. That often leads to price increases, even before any physical supply is affected. This is exactly what we are seeing now. Oil prices have been climbing, reflecting concerns about stability in the region. These changes are not limited to energy markets. They ripple through the broader economy. Transportation costs rise, production becomes more expensive, and consumers begin to feel the impact through higher prices. In the United States, rising fuel costs contribute to inflation. They affect everything from groceries to logistics, and they influence broader economic indicators. The same is true in many other parts of the world. Energy is a foundational input. When its cost increases, the effects spread quickly. But while some regions are dealing with rising costs and uncertainty, others are seeing new opportunities. This is where Africa enters the picture. The continent has long been a significant player in global energy markets. Countries like Nigeria, Angola, and Algeria have established roles as oil producers. But in recent years, there has been renewed interest in expanding capacity and attracting investment. As global buyers look for alternative sources of supply, Africa becomes increasingly relevant. Diversification is a key strategy in times of uncertainty. When one region faces potential disruption, buyers seek stability elsewhere. African producers can benefit from this shift. They can increase exports, strengthen partnerships, and improve their position in global markets. This does not happen automatically. It requires infrastructure, investment, and coordination, but the underlying opportunity is clear. Global demand for energy remains strong, and reliable suppliers are in high demand. At the same time, African countries are exploring ways to maximize the value of their resources. This includes not only exporting raw oil but also developing refining capacity. By processing oil locally, countries can capture more value within their economies. This can support job creation, industrial growth, and economic resilience. It also reduces dependence on external processing facilities. These developments align with broader trends across the continent. There is a growing emphasis on economic independence, on building systems that are less vulnerable to external shocks, and on creating long-term value from natural resources. The current situation in global oil markets highlights the importance of these strategies. It shows how quickly conditions can change, and how those changes can create both risks and opportunities. For the United States, the challenge is managing the impact of rising prices while maintaining stability. Energy policy becomes even more important in this context. Decisions related to production, reserves, and international partnerships can influence outcomes. At the same time, global interdependence means that no country can fully isolate itself from external events. The situation involving Iran adds another layer of complexity. Geopolitical tensions can affect not only supply but also perceptions. Markets respond to both. Even the possibility of disruption can drive significant changes in pricing. This creates a dynamic environment, one where information, expectations, and real-world events interact continuously. In this environment, adaptability becomes essential. Countries, companies, and consumers all need to adjust to changing conditions. For African producers, the focus is on positioning, on ensuring that they can meet demand reliably, and on building relationships that support long-term growth. This includes engaging with both traditional and new partners. It includes investing in infrastructure, and it includes strengthening regulatory frameworks. These efforts can enhance credibility and attract further investment. They can also contribute to broader economic development. Energy is often a gateway sector. It can generate revenue that supports other industries, and it can drive improvements in transportation, technology, and services. The current global situation underscores the strategic importance of energy. It highlights how control over supply and access can influence economic outcomes, and it shows how shifts in one region can create opportunities in another. For viewers, the key takeaway is understanding the connection. The connection between geopolitical events and everyday costs, between supply routes and price changes, and between global dynamics and local realities. The Strait of Hormuz may seem distant, but its impact is felt in fuel prices, in transportation costs, and in the price of goods. The same is true for developments in Africa. They may not always be visible in headlines, but they play a role in shaping global markets. As the situation continues to evolve, attention will remain focused on key indicators: oil prices, shipping activity, diplomatic developments, and production levels. These factors will provide signals about the direction of the market. They will also influence decision-making at multiple levels. Governments will adjust policies, companies will adapt strategies, and consumers will respond to changing conditions. This is the nature of interconnected systems. Changes propagate, they interact, and they create new patterns. The current moment is one of transition, not necessarily a permanent shift, but a significant adjustment. One that reflects both immediate pressures and longer-term trends. Africa's role in this adjustment is becoming more visible, not as a passive participant, but as an active contributor. A region with resources, potential, and growing influence. How that influence develops will depend on many factors: investment, governance, global demand, and the ability to navigate complex markets, but the direction is clear. Africa is increasingly part of the conversation, not just as a supplier, but as a strategic player. At the same time, global stability remains a priority. Efforts to manage tensions and ensure secure supply routes are ongoing. These efforts involve multiple countries and organizations. They reflect the importance of maintaining balance in a complex system. Because when balance is disrupted, the effects are widespread. Prices rise, uncertainty increases, and planning becomes more difficult. This is why developments in the Strait of Hormuz are closely monitored, why diplomatic channels remain active, and why markets react quickly to new information. The coming months will be important. They will provide more clarity on how the situation evolves, whether tensions ease, whether supply stabilizes, and how different regions respond. For now, the key message is awareness. Understanding that global events are interconnected, that changes in one area can affect many others, and that opportunities and challenges often arise together. This is the reality of the modern global economy: complex, dynamic, and constantly evolving. And right now, we are witnessing one of those moments where multiple forces come together to reshape the landscape. A moment where energy, geopolitics, and economic strategy intersect, and where the outcomes will influence the future, not just for one region, but for the world as a whole.